Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Badani. I'm Brendan Paul. This is World Today. Before the full bulletin, here are the top 10 stories. The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept interest rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75%, citing solid economic growth and stable labour market. Chairman Jerome Powell said future rate decisions will depend on incoming inflation and employment data. Gold prices continued their record rally on Wednesday, surpassing $5,200 an ounce. The metal has surged around 90.5% over the past year and 17% since the start of 2026, boosted by geopolitical tensions, trade concerns, and central bank rate cuts. President Trump has launched government-backed investment accounts for newborns in the U.S. Dubbed the Trump account, around 25 million families are expected to be eligible for children born between 2025 and 2028. President Trump has warned Iran to make a deal on nuclear weapons, saying any future U.S. strike would be far worse. Tehran says it is prepared for talks with the U.S. but will defend itself if provoked, warning it would respond forcefully to any attack. Trump warns Iran of strike. Tehran vows to defend itself. Hamas wants the Rafah border crossing to be fully reopened before Gaza's peace plan can proceed. The group is ready to hand over Gaza's administration to a Palestinian technocratic committee with a supervisory committee already in place to manage the transition. ASEAN foreign ministers have reaffirmed their commitment to a peaceful and lasting solution in Myanmar through a process led and owned by the Myanmar people. The pledge was made during talks on the 5-point consensus held alongside the ASEAN foreign ministers' retreat in the Philippines. The death toll from Saturday's landslide in Pasir Langgu village, West Bandung, Indonesia, has risen to 50, with 30 victims identified. Experts say the disaster was caused by heavy rainfall combined with steep slopes, weathered volcanic rocks, and existing geological faults. India has confirmed 2 cases of the deadly Nipah virus with at least 190 people quarantined. Health officials in Kolkata warned the virus, carried by bats and pigs, can cause fever and brain inflammation, with a fatality rate of 40 to 75%. Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and 4 others have died in a plane crash near Baramati, about 260 kilometers from Mumbai. The Bombardier Learjet 45, carrying 2 crew members and 2 staff with the 66-year-old politician, had no survivors, authorities confirmed. A small passenger plane carrying 15 people, including a Colombian lawmaker, has crashed near Colombia's border with Venezuela, killing everyone on board. The Satena flight lost contact with air traffic control shortly before it was due to land on Wednesday. That's today's Top 10 News. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin, bringing you the details that matter. Stay tuned.
Dunia digital penuh dengan kandungan ganas, eksploitasi kanak-kanak dan buli cyber berleluasa di luar kawalan. Akta Keselamatan dalam Talian 2025 atau AMSA dikuat kuasa untuk melindungi rakyat. Pengguna boleh bertindak atas kandungan yang berisiko. Setiap laporan yang dibuat, platform digital wajib bertindak pantas terhadap penyalahgunaan digital. Dengan AMSA, internet kini lebih selamat untuk kanak-kanak dan keluarga kita.
Welcome back. The news in full. 2 cases of the deadly Nipah virus have been confirmed in India, and at least 190 people have been quarantined. A superintendent at a hospital in Kolkata said the virus, which is carried by animals such as bats and pigs, can cause fever and brain inflammation and has a fatality rate of between 40% and 75%. Although it can spread from person to person, transmission is not easy and typically requires prolonged contact with an infected individual.
आज तक सिर्फ 2 मरीज को ये पॉजिटिव आया, बाकी जो कॉन्टैक्ट्स उसके लगभग 200 से करीब 190 तक होगा कॉन्टैक्ट उनको क्वारंटाइन में भेजा गया है और उसको उसमें से जिन लोगों का सिम्टम आया था तो उन लोगों को टेस्ट भी किया है अभी तक स्वाब नेगेटिव हो गया तो क्योंकि ये दोनों मरीज के छोड़ के और कोई पॉजिटिव अभी तक नहीं आया.
Fruit bats are the natural carriers of the virus and have been identified as the most likely cause of subsequent outbreaks. The infections were confirmed in India in late December. Small-scale outbreaks are not unusual, and virologists said the risks to the general population remain low. Several vaccines are in development but are still undergoing testing. Meanwhile, in Thailand, the government has installed thermal scanners at major airports following a reported Nipah virus outbreak in India. Authorities said the move is a precautionary public health measure. The scanners were set up on Sunday at the arrival gates of Suvarnabhumi, Don Mueang and Phuket airports, where flights from India were scheduled to land.
ก็ค่อนข้างที่จะไว้วางใจได้ในระดับหนึ่งว่าค้างคาวในบ้านเรานะคะถึงแม้ว่าจะมีการพบเชื้อแต่ในสัดส่วนที่น้อยและยังไม่ได้มีหลักฐานการแพร่เชื้อมาสู่สุกรนะคะหรือว่ามาสู่คนแต่อย่างใดนะคะแต่เราก็ยังคงการเฝ้าระวังอยู่นะคะโดยต้องเรียนให้ทราบว่านิพาไวรัสเองหรือโรคการติดเชื้อไวรัสนิพาจะเป็นหนึ่งในโรคอันตรายนะโรคติดต่ออันตรายร้ายแรงที่เราเฝ้าระวังมานานแล้วค่ะ
So far, Thailand has reported no cases of Nipah virus and there is currently no vaccine to prevent the infection and no specific treatment to cure it. US President Donald Trump urged Iran to come to the table and make a deal on nuclear weapons or the next US attack would be far worse. President Trump, who pulled out of a 2015 multi-nation nuclear deal with Tehran during his first White House term, noted that his last warning to Iran was followed by a military strike. Trump issued a warning to Iran saying the next attack will be far worse and urged them not to let it happen again. In the same message, Trump claimed another U.S. armada is moving toward Iran. Meanwhile, Iran is prepared for discussions with the United States but will defend itself if it is provoked. Iran stands ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interests. Meanwhile, the recent arrival of an aircraft carrier strike group to the Middle East brings the number of U.S. warships in the region to 10. This in turn putting significant firepower at President Donald Trump's disposal if he decides to strike Iran. The number of ships in the Middle East is now roughly equal to that sent to the Caribbean, ahead of the stunning U.S. operation to seize Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro at the beginning of the year. A U.S. official on Wednesday put the total number of U.S. ships in the Middle East at 10. The figure includes the USS Abraham Lincoln Aircraft Carrier Group, which boasts 3 destroyers, and F-35C stealth warplanes. There are also 6 other U.S. warships operating in the region, 3 destroyers and 3 littoral combat ships. In a separate development, Russia views trilateral talks with the U.S. and Ukraine positively. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the negotiations process is complex, but that all parties have agreed to continue the talks. Peskov said that representatives from the 3 countries at the trilateral talks discussed the complex issues related to a peace deal at the expert level. Overall, this can be regarded as progress and marks the beginning of dialogue. The prospects for the negotiations will depend on the specific positions of all parties, and Russia will continue to maintain an open attitude towards conducting the negotiations. Representatives of Ukraine, the United States and Russia held their first trilateral meeting since the start of the Ukraine crisis on Friday and Saturday in Abu Dhabi. On Saturday, Russian and Ukrainian representatives engaged directly during the talks. No concrete agreement or joint statement was announced following the two-day talks. According to Peskov, the next trilateral meeting is planned for the 1st of February in Abu Dhabi. German Federal Police carried out searches at Deutsche Bank locations in Frankfurt and Berlin in a case related to money laundering. Money laundering lapses have cropped up at Germany's largest lender over the years, prompting scrutiny from regulators, fines and police raids. Prosecutors are investigating as yet unnamed persons and bank employees. In the past, Deutsche Bank maintained business relationships with foreign companies, which in the course of further investigations are themselves suspected of having been used for money laundering purposes. Deutsche Bank confirmed that searches were taking place but said it would not comment further. According to a source, the searches involved transactions from the years 2013 to 2018. The FBI searched an election office in Georgia's Fulton County outside Atlanta, pursuing U.S. President Donald Trump's false claims that his 2020 election defeat was the result of widespread voting fraud. The FBI said in a statement that its agents executed a warrant at the Fulton County Election Hub, an operation center in Union City, a large warehouse-like facility opened by Georgia officials in 2023, and called it a court-authorized law enforcement activity. Georgia's State Senator Josh McLaurin criticized the action, calling it dangerous and warning that the federal government was interfering in the neutral administration of state-run elections.
And we're seeing something that is, almost basically as dangerous, which is interfering with the neutral administration of elections run by states.
This surge is the latest in a series of actions by Trump administration to use the Justice Department against his perceived enemies or to intervene in cases where he believes he was treated unfairly. ASEAN foreign ministers have reaffirmed their collective commitment to pursue a peaceful and lasting solution in Myanmar through a process that is owned and led by the Myanmar people themselves. The pledge was made during a meeting of the 5-point consensus held on the sidelines of the ASEAN foreign ministers' retreat in Cebu City, the Philippines. The meeting was chaired by Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Ma Teresa P. Lazaro, who is also the ASEAN Chair's Special Envoy on Myanmar for 2026. In a post on Platform X, Lazaro described the discussions with their counterparts as constructive. She said they shared views on the implementation of the 5-point consensus, discussed future directions, and reaffirmed ASEAN's collective resolve to seek a peaceful and sustainable solution led and owned by Myanmar. Earlier this month, Lazaro also held talks with Myanmar's National Security and Peace Commission Chairman, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. Lazaro said that as ASEAN Chair, the Philippines will continue to strengthen efforts started by previous ASEAN Special Envoys on Myanmar to advance the implementation of the 5-point consensus. Coming up, Hamas demands opening of Rafah crossing. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Hamas says the Rafah border crossing must be fully reopened in both directions with free movement in and out of Gaza before the peace plan can move forward. Hamas spokesman Qasem Hazim Qasim said the announcement of an independent national committee to oversee the reopening of Rafah shows the group's commitment to ending the war in Gaza. Hamas also said it is ready to hand over Gaza's administration to a Palestinian technocratic committee, but stressed that the Rafah crossing must be fully open in the coming days. Qasim said protocols and full documentations are already in place, and a committee has been formed to supervise the transfer of authority across all sectors in Gaza. The committee, known as the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, or NCAG, has 15 members and was formed under a US-backed ceasefire agreement that took effect on October the 10th. It is led by former Palestinian Authority Deputy Minister Ali Sha'ath. Rafah is Gaza's only gateway to the outside world and is vital for the movement of people and goods. It has largely remained closed since Israeli forces took control of the area last May, with only limited temporary openings reported earlier this year. The United Nations has warned that fighting in Sudan's Kordofan region has displaced more than 88,000 people in recent months. This is as humanitarian access remains severely restricted and civilian conditions continue to deteriorate. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said half of the population fled last year, while those who remain face critical shortages of food, healthcare, and other basic services.
And the situation in Dilling in South Kordofan States, which is South Kordofan State's second largest city, remains highly volatile. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that access routes are still cut off and the city's prolonged isolation has pushed conditions to crisis level. Humanitarian operations remain limited, with only a small number of non-governmental organizations operating under severe constraints.
The UN urged all parties to immediately de-escalate violence, move towards a ceasefire, and called on donors to maintain and increase funding to ensure aid reaches those in need. Fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces, which began in April 2023, has killed thousands and displaced millions across the country. US President Donald Trump rolled out his government-supported investment accounts for babies in the United States and urged American businesses to contribute to employees' family accounts. The White House is setting up these investments accounts for newborns in the next 3 years with initial government seed money. Trump and his Republican Party have been seeking to address voters' affordability concerns ahead of the November midterm election.
The first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future, head start at life, and a fair shot at the American dream, something people don't talk about so much, at least not for the last 4 years they haven't been, but now they're talking about it big this last period of time.
The accounts named after Trump were created last year under the president's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, his party's signature tax and spending legislation. The U.S. Treasury says it will deposit $1,000 into investment accounts for all children born between 2025 and 2028, with some 25 million families estimated to be eligible. The government will invest the money in low-cost index funds that grow tax-deferred. Income taxes are due upon withdrawal. The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept interest rates unchanged at its first policy meeting of the year, citing solid economic growth and stable labor market conditions. Policymakers voted to maintain the benchmark rate in a range between 3.5 and 3.75%. The Fed said economic activity is expanding at a solid pace, while unemployment is showing signs of stabilization, giving officials room to pause after recent rate cuts. Chairman Jerome Powell said future moves will depend on incoming data, particularly on inflation and employment.
In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy rate unchanged. Having lowered our policy rate by 75 basis points over the course of our previous 3 meetings, we see the current stance of monetary policy as appropriate to to promote progress toward both our maximum employment and 2% inflation goals.
The Fed has cut rates at its last 3 meetings, responding to earlier signs of slowing job growth. But stubborn inflation and steady economic data have now prompted a wait-and-see approach. Markets currently expect the central bank to keep rates on hold at least until mid-year, as officials assess whether inflation continues to ease and whether the labour market weakens further. Global stock markets extended gains after the U.S. Federal Reserve kept interest rates unchanged, with investors taking comfort from signs that the central bank is in no rush to tighten policy. Wall Street finished largely flat, but the S&P 500 briefly crossed the 7,000 mark for the first time, with global shares hit an intraday record for a third straight session. MSCI's World Stock Index edged higher and remained on track for its longest winning streak in more than a month, reflecting continued appetite for risk assets. The Fed said inflation remains elevated, but the economy is growing at a solid pace, offering little guidance on when borrowing costs might be cut again. Meanwhile, the US dollar held on to recent gains after an earlier pullback, as investors adjusted expectations for the timing of future rate cuts. Currency markets remain sensitive to shifting outlooks on U.S. interest rates, with traders watching for signs of slowing inflation or weakening jobs data that could prompt the Fed to ease policy later this year. The death toll from the landslide that struck Pasir Langgu village in West Bandung, Regency of Indonesia's West Java province on Saturday had risen to 50, with 30 victims already identified. Local police also said identification work on the remaining bodies is still underway through data reconciliation, including comparisons of post-mortem and ante-mortem information, as the list of missing persons continue to be updated. To accelerate such search efforts, authorities have also deployed search and rescue dogs to assist joint teams in locating victims buried under landslide debris.
Ya, akan dipersulit karena areanya terlalu luas, kemudian medan kontur tanah yang becek, berlumpur, itu akan sangat kesulitan atau menghambat dalam proses asesmen. Untuk proses pencarian, unit kinen atau anjing itu digunakan untuk asesmen dengan area yang luas, kemudian medan kontur yang basah. Kita maksimalkan unit K9 ini untuk mendeteksi titik-titik yang dicurigai ada korban atau jenazah. Mempersempit titik-titik supaya tidak kita itu mencari asal-asalan gitu.
Experts said that the landslide was triggered not only by continuous heavy rainfall, but also by local geological factors such as weathered volcanic rocks, steep slopes, and existing cracks and faults. Man City clinched Champions League last 16 spots with win over Galatasaray. Stay tuned. Manchester City's Erling Haaland and Ryan Cherki struck before half-time to secure a Champions League last 16 place with a 2-0 victory over Galatasaray. Pep Guardiola's side claimed 8th spot in the 8-game league phase to avoid the two-legged playoffs and advanced directly to the last 16 for a precious slice of breathing room in an already packed fixture schedule. Galatasaray ended 20th on 10 points and go into the playoffs. Haaland headed an early chance wide, but made up for it in the 11th minute when Jeremy Doku delivered a perfect ball to put him one-on-one with Urgan Shakir. The Norwegian chipped the ball over the keeper for his first open play goal in 10 games. Doku also provided the assist for Cherki's goal when he drew 2 defenders before laying the ball back for the Frenchman, who took a touch before slotting it home in the 29th minute.
Yeah, really pleased to finish top 8, considering how the Champions League has become. When I started 16 or 17 years, every team is really tough, and but really pleased to don't play one knockout stage, and hopefully we can arrive in Mars and our best.
Arsenal thrashed African champions Asfar Rabat 6-0 on Wednesday to reach the final of the Women's Champions Cup. Swedish forward Stina Blackstenius opened the scoring with a header 8 minutes after kickoff. England winger Raheem Sterling has left Chelsea by mutual agreement, the Premier League club said on Wednesday, after the 31-year-old was frozen out of the squad before and after a loan move at Arsenal last season. Sterling joined Chelsea from Manchester City, where he won 4 Premier League titles in a deal worth £50 million in July 2022 on a 5-year contract. However, the move turned sour with the arrival of Enzo Maresca as manager in 2024. Maresca made it clear that Sterling was not the type of winger he was looking for, and the player trained apart from the first team before joining Arsenal on loan. Sterling returned to Chelsea, having failed to impress Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta. Sterling was again exiled from the senior squad, and while new manager Liam Rosenior said he would speak with him, the situation remained unchanged. Sterling, who began his career at Liverpool, has made 82 appearances for England, scoring 20 goals, but has not played for his country since the quarterfinals of the 2022 World Cup. And finally, the Los Angeles host committee for the upcoming FIFA World Cup has unveiled a series of community and fan engagement initiatives. It is aimed at bringing the excitement of the tournament into neighborhoods across the city. Organizers said a FIFA fan festival will turn the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum into a 5-day celebration of football, culture and music, running from 11 to 15 of June. In addition, several fan zones will be set up at major locations including Union Station, Venice Beach and Magic Johnson Park, offering live match screenings, local food, music performances and family-friendly activities.
We're all coming together to bring together our communities and to celebrate the sport of soccer. It's my goal that when the world comes to Los Angeles, they will see the best of our city, not just the stadium, but they will see the culture, the history, and the art embedded into the Coliseum and Exposition Park.
We reached the end of our bulletin. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Solaran Berita RTM. You can also stream us live on RTM Click's website and mobile application. Till then, I'm Brendan Paul. Thank you for watching and take care. Salam Malaysia Madani.